Welcome to YOUCANIC. In this video we're going to show how to test an alternator. Here we have actually just replaced the alternator. We have installed a new one, but we're still getting the battery warning light on the dashboard. Now when you get that, you can have another of issues, such as like you could have a issue with the ground, you can have a bad fuse, you can have a problem with the ECU. But in this case what we're going to do is we're going to check the feed that comes to the regulator. We're going to test the 12 volt. We're going to make sure that the alternator is working, the new one, and we're going to provide the 12 feed to the regulator. So what that should do is this alternator should start charging, should get 14 regardless of what else could be wrong. We're going to basically feed that directly from the battery, and I'll show you what in a minute. But first what we want to do is here on the alternator, this is where the rate cable connects, that connects directly to the battery, and we want to check that, and we are connected, the alternator down here, and it's 12.9. okay, so there's no issue. That's the voltage from the battery though, so the car is not running right now. When the car starts, this should jump to about 14, around 14, 13.8, 14.5, no higher than 15 volts. But you can say it's 12.94, and that's the voltage from the battery. So if we start the car, you'll see that instead of raising, that's going to drop a little bit, and it is going to stay low. So let's start the car and take a look at that. So as you saw there, that didn't raise, it didn't go up higher, that actually dropped, so the alternator is not charging. So we're gonna do something else now. This is the wire that comes to the regulator, and I want to check to make sure we're getting signal. This connector has two terminals. If you look at the wire itself, there is actually only one wire that connects to this. That's the positive 12, and it varies. It could, depending on the voltage required to charge the battery, that voltage could vary. Like could go anywhere from like 6 up to full load, and that would be 12 volt. So we have disconnected this on the back and connected our multimeter. When we start the car, we are getting voltage there. There is signal coming to this wire. So the problem is not the ECU, the problem is not a fuse, the problem is most likely with the alternator, but we're going to verify that, and this is what we're doing. So right now I have this wire right here. You see that wire? I have that plugged in on the alternator down there, and I have it plugged in right there. I've unplugged the cable that comes, the wire harness, and where the 12 feeds right there, that's where I have this wire connected. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the car, and while I have the car started, I'm going to connect this to the 12 positive over here, and what that should do is our voltage is connected to the output terminal. The voltmeter is connected to this, and when we feed 12 right there, this alternator should give us 14, around 14 volts right there. So let's check that. So you can see 11.7. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to feed 12 volts to the regulator on the back, and then the output, if the alternator is good, it should start showing 14 volts. So let's check that. And nothing. So as you saw there, when we have the car running, we feed this here, we send signal to the regulator saying, okay, alternator, start sending power, start producing electricity. 12 volt there, and there is nothing coming out of here. There's nothing coming out. It should be around 14. As you can see, that has power. It's connected to this terminal, and it has 12.6 volt, but that's because it's connected directly to the battery, and that's what we're reading right now. So even though that's a brand new alternator, it is not working. And of course, as I said earlier, if it is working, if you're feeding 12 volt here and then you start seeing 14 there, your problem is not the alternator, problem is somewhere else, fuse, ECU, or something along those lines. The other thing to keep in mind is you don't want to keep this 12 volt on all the time, because this turns on and off and it could overload the alternator and could cause issues. So that's just for testing. And that's also keep in mind that some alternators might require a negative of the ground to be fed here to figure out, like, to turn on the alternator. So you have to look at the wiring diagram, kind of understand your vehicle a little bit and your alternator to find out what is fed there. I would start first by unplugging it and checking the connector there, probing it with a voltmeter, seeing turning on or starting the car. You can have this unplugged and then check that wire there, probe it, make sure you're getting 12 volt on one of those terminals, and you want to start with that. If you're not getting any power there, then you should look at the problem elsewhere, not the alternator. So that's it. That's how we tested this alternator. So here we are going to repeat the test. In this case, we have replaced the alternator, and as you can see, the battery is showing 12.2, but as soon as we start the engine, that should jump up to about 14. So let's go take a look. As you saw there, the alternator is now charging and jumped up to 14 volts, and that's what you want to see. That's all. It's pretty simple to see if your alternator is putting any, is charging your battery or not. And remember, most likely is going to be your voltage regulator, even though most shops and most places will replace the whole alternator itself. 2 out of 10 times it could be something else, like a blown fuse, bad ECU, damaged wire harness, or something along those lines. That's it as far as testing. Very simple, straightforward. All you need is a voltmeter. And thank you for watching.